Hey guys, BeardBrigade here, coming at you for this week's Tabletalk Tuesday. So, last week, well, I guess before we get into this episode, I gotta kind of recap last week's episode. So, last week we started a new series where we're blending the stuff that we're doing on Monster Mondays with what we're doing on Tabletalk Tuesday. The reason for this is I'm creating a whole homebrew campaign setting to show you guys the way I homebrew stuff, share some of the resources that I use with you guys on what I personally use to make a homebrew setting, as well as some things that I've picked up over the last few years that I've added and have changed up. So I'm not pointing out what I've added to based on what I used to use. I'm just kind of seeing you guys like the final what I do kind of process. So in this setting, or in this episode, we are going to talk about filling some creatures into the world. Now, last episode we made the start of a map. I was going to continue on with using the map, but when I realized that I didn't cut much out of that episode and I left it pretty much the whole way through, and I realized that last week's episode was about an hour long. And honestly, guys, I'll level with you. It was just as boring to edit as it is probably boring to watch. So, I'm sorry for such a long video. This week, we're going to keep it kind of, hopefully, short and sweet with how we're going to go about this. So, with that, I will give you guys the map view, and we will talk about the map. I have added some new things to it. You're going to see a lot of new things on it. And then we will talk about filling some stuff in. So as you guys can see, I have filled out the map in comparison to last week. So, first thing though, before we jump into other things, I do want to fix one thing I had before I talk about what we've added to the map, or how the map is now, and then filling in the thing. So, just so you guys are on the same page. The first thing I had is, starting here, I said that our creator old god put in an ape-like humanoid creature, which I named the Highlanders. I'm going to do away with that. As I've sat and thought about it, I didn't like it. I thought it was going to be a good thing, a good first starting thing, but as I thought about how I wanted things to progress, it wasn't a good starting point. So, rather than that, I am going with basically that this creator god scattered throughout the world. So, throughout the continent here and throughout the continent here. I left this little island alone. This little island, there's nobody living on it. No, nothing yet. But on these two main continents, towards the end of this first age that we used, we created using Dawn of the Worlds, towards the end of it, she populated the world with small little bands of, I'm going to say humans now, just straight up humans, but, just coming into the world, they're like cavemen, basically, wearing, loincloths and using big rocks as weapons, and, barely even understanding the concept of fire, very caveman starting out. So, yes, they're humans, but we're just talking like cavemen, basically, at this point in time. But as you can see, if you saw last week's episode, vastly different. So, basically what I did was I filled in the rest of the map using what I did. So I had the basis of the map, and then I kind of just thought, okay, because we're following by the rules of Dawn of Worlds, each round that we played last week was 500 years of development on the map. So by the end of it, 5,000 years have gone by. So I wanted to think about how our world has developed, for us as kind of a base setting. So, it's a brand new planet. Only 5,000 years have gone by at the end of our last episode. So to fill in everything else, I kind of didn't think of a time frame. I just kind of thought about how things would kind of naturally pop up, or other things that the gods would have thrown in. About another 2,000 years has gone by, and the whole time, of course, these humans that are on the planet, being still very cavemen, maybe by this time have made simple weapons, mainly for hunting. Because in this 2,000-year period, because beforehand maybe they were just surviving off of vegetation, plants, berries and edible fruits and edible vegetation, just living off the land to survive, like just very basic survival stuff. But in that 2,000 years, now we have animals starting to develop. Maybe the Creator God has thrown some simple creatures that evolve in this time period to become different types of creatures, which is the main topic of our episode here. Now, it kind of took a minute there, but I wanted to make sure you guys were on the same page. So, let me find a good scratch paper here. So, one thing that I find important, it was something that I kind of left out of my home brewing for the longest time, before I really sat down and thought about it. Because a lot of the time when you're building a homebrew, or at least that I've seen for a lot of people, they don't put into consideration the types of, I want to say, non-monster-like animals and creatures that would be inhabiting a land or a world. It's something that we kind of overlook a little bit, I think. We just make an area, oh, it's forested, oh, it's going to have deer in it, oh, there's a bear. These are kinds of things that we just kind of think of and then kind of just throw them in there without really too much thought. We kind of just make assumptions a little bit, but I feel like that's a detail that, though, is maybe not necessarily important, and most DMs and homebrew settings can get away with this just assumed. If you're in a jungle, you're going to find jungle creatures like monkeys and snakes and things like that. Or if you're in a forest, you're going to see things like a deer or a bear. The types of birds and things like that that are in different areas. We just have this instant assumption based on how things are in our world, in the real world, and that's how okay, it's a desert, so there's going to be camels. Really big insects or other bugs that live under the sand. There's going to be poisonous snakes, things like that. But I feel that it's a detail that we should really think about a little bit. Put some thought into it. So I'm going to break it down, and we're going to fill in some creatures, natural creatures, that we would expect to find in some certain areas. So, let's see, we have a couple different regions. So we have a swampy region. We have two swampy regions, really. We have some jungle areas. We do have some temperate areas. We do have a volcanic area. Solid jungle, temperate, volcanic. We do have a deserts. Two deserts. And I think that's really going to cover it. So, let's go ahead and just start at the top here. So we have swamps. We have two swamps. In those swamps, so down here, we have some forested areas. So we're going to break this down a little bit. So we have a forested area and just kind of more boggish area, I'm going to say. And then up here, same thing, just kind of open boggish area and some forested area. Now, thinking about swamps, what kind of things come to mind for swamps? I think lizards. I think crocodiles. So I think just in general, there should be like some kind of crocodile, alligator-like creatures there. Because that makes sense to me. You know, things like leeches we would find there. What else might we find? Snakes, I think, would be a good one too. But regardless, I mean, this would be in both areas. Like, there's not really much need to differentiate from the two for a swamp, in my opinion. But that's just my thought. What else might we find about a swamp? That's a natural creature. Like, I'm not talking like monstrous creatures yet. That's for a different episode. You know, I guess you would find fish. And probably some predatory birds. I've never been to a swamp personally, so I'm not 100% sure. So, that's really the things that come to mind for me off the bat. So in the comments below, guys, what I want you to do for me, if you happen to live in a swampy area or are familiar with zoology in a swamp or bog, throw some natural creatures that we would see in those areas, and let me know. I'll add them to my list here. So next up we got jungles. So in our jungles, big cats, things like panthers and lynxes. What else would we see? Tigers, in some cases. Even though lynx is more of a mountain cat, but in our jungle area we do, at least in this jungle area, we have some mountains here. And then we have some hills down here, actually, too. So, lynx might not be too out of the ordinary. What else might we see? Again, snakes would be another big one. Monkeys. Monkeys always come to mind for a jungle. Poisonous insects. Another big one, carnivorous plants. And that's verging more on you call it botany more than zoology, but what other things come to mind with the jungle? Ooh, swamps, frogs. I'm gonna backtrack there and do frogs. I can think of frogs and toads with swamps as well. Jungle's lizards too. They're just various lizards like geckos and, well, maybe not necessarily gecko, but something like a gecko. I think that's good for jungles at the moment. Let's see here. Temperate's the next one on our list. So temperate, that's where we'd see, a little bit of variation here, because now we have, a variety of different areas. But we'll stick with some basics here to start, because that's the next little bit that I want to talk about before I wrap up towards the end. So, in temperates, we would expect to see things like deer and elk, bears, maybe things, in our grasslands, maybe we would see more of a lion or a cheetah or something like that, depending on the area. In this world, I don't really see too many spots where there could be a lion, really. I mean, maybe in our more deserted areas, maybe make them a little bit more like plains, more like, the African plains or something like that. But just off the top of my head, I couldn't really think of something that really speaks to me in like a temperate area as a lion. So, jungle's jaguars. There we go. That was another big cat I was looking for. But in our temperate area, we could see a lynx as well. I really like lynxes, guys. I've been seeing a lot of videos on them, so that's probably why. What else might we see? Deer, elk, bears, lynx. We'd probably see things like rabbits, squirrels, and probably more likely to see like a wolf or a coyote. Some like wild dogs. What are the big things? Probably predatory birds, things like eagles and condors. That would be a good range there. So, next up we got deserts. So let's run through some desert creatures here. So first and foremost, camels. What else? I think poisonous and dangerous insects, snakes. I don't honestly know what else might be in a desert. I mean, I guess you could go, like if it was a desert or like plains, like a savanna. Maybe then at that point you get the more like that I was talking about a minute ago. There are lions, maybe some cheetahs. Maybe things like hyenas. And maybe, something more like akin to a coyote. Just to kind of get it going there. And again, it's the same thing, like I said with the swamps, guys, for any of these. If you are familiar more with more creatures, or if you feel like I missed something that might be a little more appropriate, shoot them out at me in the comments, and I'll be sure to add them to the list. If you think that there's a creature that I've listed for one of these regions that doesn't make sense, let me know and we can fix it. So, just let me know why, or maybe give me a link on why that creature wouldn't be in there. Oh, I almost forgot about Artegia snow areas. So like our areas like here, like in here. So definitely bears. Wolves. Certain kinds of elk. Maybe like a reindeer type thing. I guess that's kind of similar to an elk, right? I wouldn't picture a lot of like smaller creatures. I'm trying to think of what else would live. I hate to say it, penguin. Seals, I guess, be another one as well. Something volcanic would be another reason. Now, honestly, for volcanic, I can't think of anything, because I don't think there's anything in the world today that naturally lives in a volcanic area. So we're just going to kind of leave that one alone, to be honest. But then we're going to talk about, our rivers and water areas. So, obviously there's going to be a variety of fish. I'm no fish expert. So like the rivers would have small fish, things like I guess salmon or albacore. I think albacore is a fish in the rivers. Like again, I'm not really sure. Just the fish that we eat on our tables. You could picture that. Our oceans, the oceans here, all this other area. Maybe you would see things like whales and dolphins and sharks. Octopus. Just to kind of get it going there. So, with that, I kind of, just brainstormed a bunch of ideas there, right? Just kind of thinking about, okay, a region, and what kind of creatures you expect to find in that region. Now, there's two ways you can go about this. One, you can just make a list like this, then you have kind of just a quick reference. Maybe your players are walking through the woods. Boom, roll on your table. They're in a forest. They come across a pack of deer. Boom. And then you have a way of knowing right then and there, instantly coming to mind to throw some just other stuff at them, rather than trying to think of something off the top of your head. And it's a quick, basic, easy thing you can whip up. I think now, one thing that I think is important, and it is the next thing we'll talk about here for this video. Now that we have these lists of creatures, let's think about how our world is. So in this homebrew that we're making, this planet is twice the size of Earth. It has 2 suns and 1 moon. One of the suns is red and one of the other sun is blue. And it has rings around it. So there's quite some interesting probably some interesting sorry about that yawn there, guys. It probably has some interesting times of day range, I imagine. And the lighting changing. Maybe there's an eclipse every so often. These are more minute details we'll go over a little later in a different video as well. I think there'd be some interesting things. So what I like to think about is, especially this world that I'm creating, it's obviously not Earth. So why would my creatures look exactly like Earth creatures? We may know a bear, because too, then it adds some mystery to your characters too. If your characters are traveling to an area for the first time, we fall into this habit of, a deer is a deer. Well, here in the U.S., you go to the woods and you see a deer, right? You go to Japan and you see a deer in Japan, but yes, the creature looks, the two look very similar. There are obvious differences. So that way, when your party or group is going to a new region that none of them have been to before, you can use, I think using verbiage there to really show that there are differences, I think adds a lot of depth. Rather than your players coming across a deer in this new region, they come across a creature that's akin to a deer, that looks very similar to a deer, but there are obvious differences. Throw in something different. Okay, maybe the deer that they normally see, is baby, for an example. But they go to, something like a Japanese isle, and rather than being, a light brown or a dark brown, maybe it's got more of a reddish tone to its fur. Maybe they have, like, a mane of some kind that makes them, maybe they have, like, a lion-esque mane on them, and their antlers grow in a different direction, or, maybe their antlers, are stark white or stark black. You can throw in these little details then, which can add to player immersion, because then you're describing this creature may not even be important, but it gets them involved in the world, and it allows them to picture something in their brain and really get them involved in this creation that you've done. So when you're thinking, once you've made this list, think about what in these different areas or these different regions on your map, how things are going to be different compared to one area to another. I'll just throw a quick example here before we wrap up. So let's say, for example, I'll do two examples. So the first example, let's say there's some kind of alligator creature that lives in the swamp area that's in here, right? Let's just use the basis that it is your typical alligator, right? The typical alligator that like we see today. Now over here in this swamp area, maybe there is an alligator there, but so your group comes across it, and you say, "Hey guys, you're going through the woods, you're under the swamp, and this first thing you see, reminds you guys a lot about the alligator, that's from your nearby homeland, and now you're these thousands of miles away. You see this creature, and it looks significantly like an alligator, but there's a few differences. One, it's half the size. At first I thought it was a baby alligator, but then you're seeing more and more of them, and they're all about the same size. They're not very big. You're not seeing any of them that are big. Now, maybe another difference is maybe rather than having 4 legs, they have 6 legs. Or, perhaps, they are more of a brownish color to blend in with the mud, or to blend in with some trees. Maybe they're in this wooded area up here, and they have adapted to have this scale color that matches the trees so they can blend in, because maybe rather than, perhaps down here in this swamp, they're predators, but up here, they're prey. So they have to learn to adapt differently, and that gives them that slightly different appearance. They're smaller, which makes them more viable to be prey. They now have these adaptations that allow them to be hidden and hide and have that natural camouflage. It's still technically the same creature, or the same type of creature. They're both alligators, but they're different because they're from 2 different parts of the world. And I think that's a detail we miss a lot of, and that's why I want to talk about it in this episode. So, the second example, again, just these subtle differences that you can throw in for your players in your setting, or rather than players, for your readers, if you're maybe writing a book in a fantasy setting or a sci-fi setting. This is kind of just general. You could use it in whatever you're using, really. At least I hope you can. Obviously, there's some parts that don't apply, ditch them, but I hope that this, would be viable as inspiration for you folks. So, the next example before we wrap up. So let's say we have, perfect example. So we have a bear that lives in this forest, right? And we have a bear that lives down here, maybe more towards the mountains. Now we obviously have a temperate area here, so you'd probably see more of like a brown bear, right? Or maybe a grizzly bear, something more along those lines. Now in our snowy area, we would obviously see, probably to us, what would be a polar bear. So now, players, we just have this assumption. Now, that's just, that base assumption that we have. Now, you could completely describe it. Maybe it's a black bear that lives in the snow. It doesn't have to be a polar bear. We don't have to have this instant assumption that, a bear is a bear. Well, there's quite a variety of bears. Like, You know, there's the honey bear. You know, the honey bear is small. He's agile. I think the honey bear is the one too that has like a yellow tint in its fur. Like it has little like yellow stripes in its fur, I think. You know, and those are small, tiny bears. You know, they're about the size of a teddy bear. Actually, no, I don't think the size of a teddy bear. They're probably a little bit bigger, but you know, then we have something like a grizzly bear or a brown bear or a black bear, which is this giant hulking bear. And there's all these differences. So that's just, I don't know, I feel it is an important detail that as a creator for a homebrew or creator for a setting, that we do need to keep in mind. Because I feel that it does detract when we just go on the assumption of a bear is a bear. Now, with some writing cases, you know, describing just saying that, you know, the character comes across a bear is sufficient enough because you're going to leave it just to the imagination of the reader. Now, you know, in some settings or cases, you know, describing it as something akin to a bear then brings in this new imagination for the reader or the player. You know, because if I tell you that, you know, Dragor is going through the forest and he comes across a bear. Well, I've told you forest and bear, so you're probably thinking something like a brown bear or a grizzly bear, right? But if I say that Dragor is going through the darkened forest and he comes across this creature that is akin to a bear, not quite a bear, there's some subtle differences. Its fur is dark and midnight of a color. Its burly paws are, you know, tipped and shining or razor-type talons of some sort. But its eyes strike you with a red demonic glow. You have a completely different picture. You have like, you're picturing a monster in your brain more than a bear. So that's kind of the point I'm trying is that we have these things. You know, we as the storyteller or the DM can describe something in such a way that we can leave it up to the reader or the player or whatever to an extent, which, you know, is always good to do. But, you know, all the time we miss that when we're talking about just normal animals in our settings. So, that is where I'm going to leave this episode. Our next part, which of course, I'm pretty sure, at least, I mean, I hope it's everybody's. Oh, I tried to put my phone on the floor. Is everybody's favorite part of the show. And that is messages on Twitter. No, I'm kidding. It's updating our playlists. Actually, I do have Twitter notifications. That's the only reason I brought it. So, for our Nerdclectic playlist here, on my list here, let's see. Oh, we have to. Yeah. Before the month is over, I have to do this song. So, fun little fact for you guys. I spent a majority of my childhood growing up in Texas. So, for this week, I've been on a weird Texas kick lately. I don't know if it's just me trying to relive some childhood memories or what, but because of it, we are going to go with the song Deep in the Heart of Texas. If I could spell it right, that would be helpful. Deep into my heart. And we are going to go with, let's see, it is the Gene Autry version of that song. So, you know, you're from Texas or you're in Texas, when someone shouts this song, the stars at night are big and bright, and someone will finish the rest of that. And I'm sure if you are from Texas or have been to Texas or have lived there for any extended period of time, you probably finished it after I said it. So let us get on to, of course, well, You guys know it. You guys love it. Song of the day, yeah, yeah. Song of the day, yeah, yeah. Song of the day, yeah, yeah. Still waiting for someone to remix it. Make the internet famous with that stuff. Please don't. Please don't ignore that, guys. Just. Alright. Oh, you know what? Boom. Might as well. We're gonna actually, I was talking about Danger Kids a minute ago. We're actually gonna use one of their songs for our song of the day. The song is called Glass on Water from the, this is the Blacklist album. Or I think the album is just called The Blacklist. I remember, I don't have the details on my thing. It just says Glass on Water by Danger Kids on my screen. So that will be, nope, not the button I wanted to push. The phone is being dumb today, guys. Sign that I need a new one. So boom, that is our song of the day. Anyway, guys, as always, check me out on Instagram, which, actually, I don't think I've posted on there in a couple of days. I need to get back on that. But yeah, you can check out my little video clips of my pets and me and the kiddos and other little shenanigans that we do by checking me out on Instagram at BeardBrigade0. You can, of course, follow me with all the buzz that's been going on Twitter for me at Brigade Beard. If you have enjoyed this video or finding this series very helpful, make sure you hit that like button for this video, and make sure you hit that subscribe button for me, and ring the bell. That's, where is it? I think it's right here. Somewhere right here. I think it's over there somewhere. So hit that bell for me. That way it'll notify you the next time I have a video up. And then, of course, guys, check out the companion website, which I'm a little bit behind on. I decided to actually keep it going, so I apologize that I'm not updating it, but with everything that I'm doing in my life, updating that website is actually the last thing on the list of things to do any given day of the week with everything that I do. So I will have that updated with some Monster Monday stuff that I've fallen behind on, as well as I plan to add a few more things on there in the coming, hopefully, weeks, probably more like the coming month or two. So you can check out that companion website for more details or for a little bit more refined versions of some of my videos that I'm talking about, these monsters and things. Other than that, guys, if you are looking for a way to support the channel or help give back to the channel anyway, I have a GoFundMe, which you can find in the description below, which is designed to help me, once the goal is met, help reach getting some new equipment for the channel so I can help improve some of the quality, as well as keep the channel going. If you guys have noticed in a couple of my videos, I'm dealing with some lag issues and certain things, and behind the scenes, which you guys don't really see much of, I am dealing with a lot of technical issues lately, so anything can help. In fact, while I'm thinking about it, I'm trying to reach my first milestone, which I have set for myself. That is reaching 25 subscribers here on YouTube, looking to hit 75 followers on Twitter, and I'm trying to reach a third of the full goal for the YouTube, or for the GoFundMe page. So as of this video, I have 21 subscribers here on YouTube. So if you are not yet subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button for me. And if you are not yet a follower of me on Twitter, head on over to Twitter, because I'm at 47 of that 75. I haven't checked the GoFundMe page today, but last I looked, I still only had the one donation, so thanks so much to that anonymous donor. I really appreciate it. So if you're looking to give back or support the channel, head on over there and help me reach that first goal there. So anyway, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching my videos. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you guys take care of yourselves. Have a super fantastic rest of your day, and we will catch you next time.